Good morning. Before discussing with the development of face, we need to see this particular diagram where we can see the craniocaudal folding because of the development of the neural tube and brain vesicle, as well as the development of pericardial vesicle, or because of the development of heart area. Because of these two bulges, as we have discussed earlier also, the head fold and the pericardial fold, in between is trapped a small depression which is called as stomatodium. Now when this head craniocaudal folding is occurring, portion of the yolk sac is trapped within the embryo, and this trapped portion of the yolk sac will form the primitive gut. Now if you see, the cranial end of the gut lies very close to the stomatodium, but it is separated from it by a partition which is basically formed by the procaudal plate, and at this point now it is called as buccopharyngeal membrane. Now we will just concentrate on this cranial most portion of the developing embryo. So this diagram, which is showing head bulge or the cephalic bulge and the pericardial bulge. This is the developing brain, and this is the cranial end of the primitive gut. This is the area of the buccopharyngeal membrane, and this is the stomatodium. In this area, we can see that developing brain, that is the neural tube, cranial most part of the neural tube, which is dilated to form the brain, is covered by the mesoderm, which starts proliferating here. And this mesoderm, which lies cranial to the developing brain, starts proliferating and forms a bulge towards the stomatodium, and this is called as frontonasal process. This bulging of the frontonasal process starts occurring at the beginning of the 4th week. So now by the 4th week, we have a process which is called as frontonasal process, covering the stomatodium from above, while at the same time the pharyngeal arches have also started forming, and this is the first pharyngeal arch, called the mandibular arch. It lies just above the pericardial bulge and covers the stomatodium from below. Now the mandibular arch, which is formed around 4 weeks, towards the end of the 4 weeks, since it is a large arch, towards the end of the 4 weeks, it starts dividing into two processes, the upper process and the lower process. The upper process is called the maxillary process, while the lower one is called as mandibular process. So at the end of the 4 weeks, stomatodium, which is here, is now surrounded above by the frontonasal process, and on either side superior surrounded by the maxillary process, and below by the mandibular process. And all these 5 processes, they will lead to the formation of face. When various bulges are being formed at the same time, the two thickened areas are developing in the frontonasal process. These are called as nasal placodes. Now these nasal placodes, they start pink inside or invaginating, and they form nasal pits. When they are doing so, the surrounding frontonasal area becomes prominent. This is called as nasal process. Now this nasal process is divided into two parts, the medial nasal process and the lateral nasal process. This yellow one is the medial nasal process, while the blue one is the lateral nasal process. At the same time, towards the lateral side, the eye starts developing. The frontonasal process has two thickened areas which are formed by the ectodermal thickening called nasal placode, and these nasal placodes also appear by the end of the 4 weeks. And nasal placodes, they form the primordia for the formation of the nasal cavity. The nasal placodes later on stretch themselves and they form a small depression. Because of the nasal pits, the surrounding frontonasal process becomes prominent and forms nasal process. The nasal process is further divided into two parts. The yellow one is the medial nasal process, and the blue one is the lateral nasal process. Now in this particular diagram, we can see, because of the nasal pits, we have two more processes on each side, that is medial nasal process and the lateral nasal process. At the same time, on the lateral aspect, eye is developing, and the maxillary process and mandibular processes are also seen around the stomatodium. In the beginning, the medial nasal process is continuous with the stomatodium, as we can see here, and the developing eye is on the lateral side. This shows the evolution of the human, where in the lower animals, if you observe, especially in the cattle, the eye is laterally placed, but with further development, the eye in human beings comes on the face. Now, around 7 to 8 weeks, the two medial nasal processes, they start moving towards each other. At the same time, the maxillary process also starts moving medially. Ultimately, the two medial nasal processes, they fuse with each other and with the maxillary process. The two medial nasal processes, when they fuse, they will be forming the central portion or the philtrum portion of the lip, while fusion of the maxillary process with the medial nasal processes will form the lateral part of the upper lip. So here in this particular diagram, we can see the developing eye is here and the lateral nasal process has not fused with the maxillary process. So there is a groove left in between the two which extends up to the developing eye, and this is called as nasolacrimal groove. This nasolacrimal groove has a ectoderm in this depressed area. This ectoderm proliferates to form a cord-like structure which extends from the eye towards the nose, and this will form ultimately the nasolacrimal duct. And initially it is cord-like, and later on with the further degenerations of the cells, the canalization will occur, and then proper duct from which extends from the medial side of the eye to the nose will appear in the form of nasolacrimal duct. At around end of the 8th week, the lateral nasal process will also fuse with the maxillary process, and that will lead to the development of the cheek area. At the same time, the nasolacrimal duct will also be covered. This particular picture is giving us idea where various parts of the face have developed from. So we can see the forehead area has developed from the frontonasal process, and the of the nose and the philtrum, this central portion of the upper lip is called as the philtrum of the lip, and all has developed from the frontonasal process, or you can say this philtrum part especially has developed from that fusion of the two medial nasal processes. Lateral part of the upper lip has developed from by the fusion of medial nasal process with the maxillary process. Cheek area has developed by the fusion of maxillary process with the lateral nasal process. Mandibular processes also fuse in the midline to form the lower lip and the chin area. So the lower lip on the face is formed first before rest of the face is formed. We'll just repeat once again that the face develops from 5 processes: frontonasal process, 2 maxillary process, and 2 mandibular processes. 2 mandibular processes, they fuse to form the lower lip as well as the jaw, and this is the first part of the face which is formed. Frontonasal process has a nasal placode which ultimately becomes a pit, and surrounding the pit will be medial and the lateral nasal processes. These are the parts of the frontonasal process. Then when the maxillary process fuses with the medial nasal process, will form the lateral part of the upper lip. And 2 medial nasal processes also fuse with each other to form the philtrum portion of the upper lip. Then later on, maxillary process fuses with the lateral nasal process to form the cheek area. Before it is fused, in between there is a groove which runs from the eye, medial side of the eye, to the nose, and that forms the nasolacrimal groove. Within the nasolacrimal groove, due to the ectodermal proliferation, the nasolacrimal duct is ultimately formed. So the development of face is almost completed by the 10th week of the intrauterine life. Next we will discuss about the development of palate. In this picture we can see the hard palate area, then this is the soft palate area and uvula. Palate develops from two stages, that is primary palate and the secondary palate. And the development of palate starts at the end of the 5th week and is completed by the 12th week. Critical period of the development of palate is from the end of the 6th week and until the beginning of the 9th week. Primary palate or median palatine process it has developed from the fusion of the two medial nasal processes, which basically the part of the frontonasal process which has developed internally, and it lies just behind the philtrum of the developing upper lip. Early in the 6th week, maxillary process also starts developing internally in the form of two processes, which is called as the palatine processes, and this will lead to the formation of the secondary palate. So here we have the primary palate, which has developed from the frontonasal process, and the secondary palate, which has developed from the maxillary process, and this is the developing nasal septum. Now, if we take a coronal section of this particular stage, that is around 6th week, so we will be able to see something like that. This is the developing nasal septum, which has also developed again by the frontonasal process, and this is the developing nasal cavity, and this is the developing tongue. So we can see there is no partition between the nasal cavity and the oral cavity. And the palatine processes which form the secondary palate, they develop inferior to the developing tongue. But later on, as the jaw develops, the tongue becomes relatively smaller, and because of that these palatal processes or the secondary palate gets more space and it moves above the tongue, and then they start growing medially towards each other. This all happens at around 7 to 8 weeks of intrauterine life. Gradually these processes, the palatine processes, they move towards each other and fuse in the center, thus separating nasal cavity from the oral cavity. This is the tongue area, and we get a picture something like this if we see from below, from the oral cavity side. So here we can see that the primary palate is forming the premaxilla, which is a small portion in adults just behind the incisors, and then secondary palate has developed into the rest of the hard palate and the soft palate, including uvula. At the same time, when the palate is fusing, the nasal septum also has a downwards growth and meets with the developing palate, and this leads to the separation of two nasal cavities also. This fusion between the nasal septum and the palatal processes, it starts in the beginning of the 9th week anteriorly and is completed posteriorly by the 12th week. Since we have seen that the face as well as palate have developed from various processes, and they are fully formed when these processes so the non-fusion of these processes will lead to various defects which are called as facial clefts. These pictures are showing various type of clefts in the lip area. This is a normally developed face, while in this picture we can see cleft lip. Cleft lip this is a lateral type of cleft lip, which is one of the most common cleft lip, and it can be unilateral, that is on one side, or it can be bilateral on both the sides. So the cleft lip is the congenital split in the upper lip of one or both sides. Usually upper lip of hare has a cleft, that is why this is also called as hare lip. The embryological basis of the lateral cleft lip is because of the failure of maxillary process with the medial nasal process. That if it is unilateral, this failure will occur only on one side, but if it is bilateral, then the failure will occur on both the sides. In this case, external nares are not separated from the oral cavity. Unilateral cleft lip is most common lateral cleft lip, and in 80% of cases it is seen only in males as compared to females, and the incidence of the cleft lip is 1 in 1000 births. Increased maternal age is one of the common cause for the cleft lip, and if a couple has a child with cleft lip, there are 4% chances of the next baby having the similar type of cleft lip. While if two children have cleft lip, then there are 9% chances of next baby having the cleft lip. If person is having only cleft lip, then it is a basically cosmetic problem and does not cause any functional problem. This has to be treated surgically. Other type of facial clefts are this is called as median cleft lip. This occurs only when two medial nasal processes they do not fuse with each other, and that will lead to a midline cleft in the upper lip. This is a rare condition. This is another type of cleft which is also rare, and it is called as oblique facial cleft. This occurs when the maxillary process does not fuse with the lateral nasal processes, and it will lead to the patent nasolacrimal groove, and we can see nasolacrimal duct open. It is not closed from above, and we can see even the tears running in this cleft. This is a cleft in the lower lip because when the two mandibular processes they do not meet, they may cause the cleft in the lower lip. This is also a very rare condition. These are various pictures which are showing the cleft. These are various pictures with shown with the mouth open, and in this picture we can clearly see the complete palate with uvula, and this blue colored area is showing basically the structures developed from the frontonasal process, and these are the palatal processes which lead to the development of rest of the secondary palate. Now in this picture we can just see a small cleft in the lip, that is lateral cleft lip, which we have already discussed, while these rest of the pictures show various type of cleft palates may be associated with the cleft lip also. For example, in this picture we can see the cleft palate associated with the lateral cleft lip also, and this is showing it is because of the non-fusion of palatal processes of the maxillary process with the premaxilla or the primary palate. So that is on the one side. That is why it is just seen a small cleft here, while there is a complete associated lateral cleft lip also. The previous condition was unilateral. This is a bilateral condition here now, and we can see both side lateral cleft lips and palatal clefts in the because of the non-fusion of the primary and the secondary palate is seen on both the sides. Then this is solely a palatal cleft or the cleft palate where the two maxillary processes have failed to fuse with each other. This is one of the common type of cleft palate, and there is another cleft palate associated with the cleft lip, and this is called as complete cleft palate with cleft lip, because we can see that two palatine processes of maxilla have also not fused to form the secondary palate, and these palatine processes have also not fused with the primary palate, and that has led to the complete cleft in the palate, and this is also associated with the cleft lip. Cleft palate are not just cosmetic, but they are posing a functional problem also, because this will be causing problem not only in feeding but also later on in speech as well as dentition also. The cleft palate is as compared to the cleft lip is less common. It is one in 2500 births. The cleft palate is more common in females, that is approximately 67% it is seen in females, as compared to the cleft lip which was seen more in males. Again, the incidence is not related to the maternal age, where the cleft lip incidence was related to the maternal age. More the age, more were the chances of cleft lip. Now, if the couple has a child with the cleft palate, there are 2% of chances that another child will have similar defect. Now, if we look at the pictures, we realize that cleft palate can be complete as seen in this, or incomplete. Complete cleft palate can be unilateral and generally occurs due to non-fusion of the palatine processes with each other as well as with the primitive palate, and generally associated with the cleft lip also. It may be unilateral or bilateral, means on both the sides. And incomplete cleft is only seen in the palate, and it may be seen between the two maxillary processes, in any part of the two maxillary process, or sometimes it may be just seen as a bifid uvula. Since cleft palate poses functional problems also, it needs early corrections surgically. This diagram is a sagittal section which shows the developing brain and developing tongue here, with the developing nasal pit. If you remember that the nasal placode was a thickening of the ectoderm on the frontonasal process, which later on starts invaginating and forms a nasal pit. So this is the nasal pit which is formed here, and this is a developing premaxilla portion of the palate. This nasal pit starts deepening in around 6th week of intrauterine life, something like this. So in this case, what happens when the nasal pit deepens, the thin membrane is formed between the oral cavity and the nasal cavity, which is known as oronasal membrane. This membrane later on breaks up, and there is a continuity of nasal cavity with the oral cavity. So this is the way the continuity is formed between the developing nasal cavity and the oral cavity, and in the anterior aspect it is separated by the developing premaxilla. Later on, with the development of complete palate, the nasal cavity is separated from the oral cavity, and it remains continuous through the posterior aspect with the pharynx, and ultimately on the lateral wall also the scroll-like projections called conchae also appear. Next, we talk about the development of external ear, that is pinna. We have already discussed about the development of external acoustic meatus as well as the middle ear when we were discussing the development of pharyngeal clefts and pharyngeal pouches. Now the pinna, as you can see in this picture, this is the head bulge and this is the pericardial bulge, and somewhere here we have the arches developed first and the second arch is developed. The pinna is formed around the first ectodermal cleft by three swellings which are called as hillocks. 3 of them are formed in the first arch area and 3 are formed in the second arch area. They have been numbered. For first arch we number them from ventral to the dorsal side as 1, 2 and 3, and then in the second arch we lumber them from dorsal to the ventral side, 4, 5 and 6. This is how these hillocks they further develop around the external acoustic meatus, and finally they take up the normal like this. That is, from first hillock tragus is formed, from second and the third hillock, and the third hillocks will form the helix, fourth and the fifth will form antihelix, and the sixth one will form antitragus.